Hello. Welcome to MK Recaps. Today I will be explaining a horror movie released in 2006 called Snake on a Plane. Sean Jones, Nathan Phillips, is accompanied by FBI agents Neville Flynn, Samuel L. Jackson, and John Sanders, Mark Houghton, on a Boeing 747-400 after he witnessed Eddie Kim, Byron Lawson, a gangster, viciously murder U.S. prosecutor Daniel Hayes, Scott Nicholson, in Hawaii. The purpose of the trip is to transport Jones to Los Angeles to testify at Kim's trial. Despite the enhanced security measures for the flight, Eddie Kim manages to arrange for a crate filled with venomous and deadly snakes to be placed in the cargo hold on a time-release mechanism, with the intention of causing the plane to crash before it reaches Los Angeles. To make sure the snakes target the passengers, Kim has one of his henchmen disguised as an airport ground employee spray a special pheromone on the passengers' legs, which will trigger the snakes to attack aggressively without provocation. Furthermore, the pheromone is dispersed throughout the aircraft's air circulation system to spread the snake's aggression to all parts of the plane. Halfway through the flight, the crate suddenly bursts open, and the venomous snakes escape and begin to infiltrate various parts of the aircraft. The initial victims of the snake attack are a cat located in the cargo bay, a couple engaged in sexual activity in the lavatory in an attempt to join the Mile High Club, and a man using the bathroom. Additionally, one of the snakes damages the plane's electronic systems, causing the captain, Sam McKeon, Tom Butler, to investigate the problem by descending into the hold beneath the cockpit and resetting the breakers. Unfortunately, before he can climb back up the ladder, he is bitten and killed by one of the vipers. After flight attendant Claire Miller, Juliana Margulies, informs co-pilot Rick, David Keckner, that the captain has been incapacitated, Rick assumes that the captain has had a heart attack. Claire rushes to notify FBI agents Flynn and Sanders, who assist in relocating the captain's body. At a later point in the flight, several coral snakes make their way into the cockpit, prompting Rick to use his clipboard to fend them off. Unfortunately, in the process, he accidentally triggers the release of the oxygen masks, causing them to deploy throughout the entire aircraft. The snakes take advantage of the holes created by the oxygen masks, enabling them to infiltrate the cabin and further terrorize the passengers. During the snake attack, a significant number of passengers, including Agent Sanders, are killed. Agent Flynn takes action and enters the cabin, using a stun gun to deter the snakes as he attempts to move towards the cockpit. However, upon assessing the situation, he realizes that the number of snakes and the resulting chaos among the passengers is too great to continue. Instead, he yells for the passengers to make their way to the front of the plane as he retreats towards the cockpit. Following Flynn's instructions, the passengers who are able to make their way to the front of the aircraft begin constructing a barricade using luggage. Meanwhile, the three flight attendants, one male and two female, are doing their best to assist the passengers in any way possible. In a heroic effort to save a woman's baby, stewardess Grace Lynn Shea ends up getting bitten by one of the snakes, which proves to be fatal. Two young boys, who are traveling alone to Los Angeles to meet their Navy captain father stationed in Hawaii, are also caught in the midst of the snake attack. The youngest of the boys is bitten on the wrist, and his hand and wrist begin to swell considerably. In a moment of quick thinking, a young Latina woman, who happens to be the mother of the baby previously saved by Grace, performs an incision on the affected area and sucks out some of the poison to help alleviate the swelling. Agent Flynn reaches out to FBI Special Agent Hank Harris, Bobby Cannavale, and requests immediate assistance. Harris instructs his team to locate a nearby expert in snake behavior. Dr. Stephen Price, Todd Luiso, an experienced ophthalmologist, answers the call and converses with Flynn directly. Price suggests that there may be an external stimulus causing the snakes to exhibit aggressive behavior and speculates that a pheromone might be responsible after careful consideration. Flynn informs Price that he will collect all the deceased snakes to provide detailed descriptions for Dr. Price and to prepare antivenom. However, before he can carry out this task, he must pacify a potential rebellion among the passengers, who hold him and Jones responsible for their current predicament. After successfully calming the passengers to some extent with the help of the flight crew, one passenger proposes the idea of taking photographs of the lifeless serpents to send to Dr. Price. As a group of passengers begin to collect the deceased snakes, a sizable serpent located in the cockpit launches an attack and incapacitates the co-pilot. This causes the aircraft to tilt downward, resulting in a food trolley smashing through the luggage blockade. In response, the passengers rush to the first-class cabin upstairs, exceeding the weight capacity of the stair railing and causing it to collapse. Simultaneously, a colossal boa constrictor crashes through the overhead compartment and falls into the aisle. A discourteous and impolite passenger seizes a small dog belonging to a woman and hurls it towards the snake. Outraged, the dog's owner attacks the man but is forced to retreat when the boa constrictor ensnares him in its deadly grip, crushing him to death. The passengers successfully ascend to the upper level and obstruct the stairway with an inflatable life raft. After receiving emailed images of the reptiles, Price initially worries that there may not be sufficient time to gather the necessary amount of antivenom. However, Price eventually realizes that a snake dealer residing in the vicinity of Los Angeles, who was responsible for supplying the diverse range of snakes on the flight, likely possesses the requisite antivenoms for all the species involved. Music sensation 3Gs, played by Flex Alexander, is accompanied by two burly bodyguards during his travels. Although he has been managing the snake predicament reasonably well up until this point, he suddenly panics, claiming that it's too hot and he cannot breathe. His agitation escalates, and he becomes aggressive, prompting Flynn to intervene physically. In the midst of their struggle, 3Gs snatches Flynn's firearm. However, when Troy, portrayed by Kenan Thompson, one of 3G's bodyguards, distracts him, Flynn retrieves his weapon and orders 3Gs to return to his seat. After flight attendant Claire Miller, played by Juliana Margulies, eliminates the serpent in the cockpit using a fire axe, she and Flynn manage to regain partial control of the aircraft. To rectify the situation, Claire assists Flynn in descending into the cargo hold to repair the air conditioning and ventilation system. In the confined space of the elevator, Flynn dispatches two snakes before proceeding further down. Once inside the cargo hold, he employs a makeshift flamethrower constructed by Claire to vanquish two more snakes. Eventually, Flynn is able to reset the power for the air conditioning, restoring the temperature to a tolerable level. One of 3G's bodyguards, Big Leroy, portrayed by Keith Dallas, was bitten on the left buttock early on in the attack and has been suffering the effects of the venom ever since. During a search of his desert property, the police locate the snake dealer who engages in a brief shootout before attempting to flee, only to be bitten by one of his own deadly snakes. In exchange for the antivenom he desperately needs, Special Agent Harris coerces the dealer into revealing information about the illegal snakes on the plane. After providing the crucial details, the dealer receives the necessary antivenom, while the remaining supply is requisitioned to treat the passengers affected by the snake attack. Harris issued orders for the arrest of Eddie Kim before contacting Flynn to inform him that antivenom would be available for the passengers upon landing. When Flynn tries to open the cockpit door, he discovers that Rick has already died, and there are several snakes present. Flynn quickly shuts the door. When Claire asks if anyone knows how to fly a plane, Troy volunteers despite initially being taken aback. After thinking it over, Troy admits to having over 2,000 hours of experience and agrees to take the reins. Meanwhile, Flynn reaches his limit with the snakes and decides to take matters into his own hands. He orders all the passengers to secure themselves in their seats and, once everyone is ready, he draws his pistol and shoots out two cabin windows, causing the plane to depressurize. Flynn then flings open the cockpit door, allowing all the loose items, including the snakes, to be sucked out of the plane. With Flynn's assistance, Troy manages to enter the cockpit and takes control of the plane. Troy is pleasantly surprised to find that the controls feel familiar to him. He levels off the plane at an altitude where the pressure is no longer causing items to be sucked out. When air traffic control establishes communication, they ask Troy about his flight experience. Troy confirms that he has flown several types of military aircraft, but it soon becomes apparent that he was referring to his experience with flight simulation video games. Despite the rough start, Troy is the best available option to land the plane. He manages to bring the plane down, albeit with a few hard bounces, and takes a bit of stern encouragement from Flynn to get the jet turned left and braked properly. Eventually, the plane comes to a stop just shy of a hangar. The passengers evacuate the aircraft using emergency slides just as the emergency vehicles, Dr. Price, and the anti-venom arrive on the scene. As Flynn and Sean prepare to disembark the plane, a snake suddenly appears and bites Sean in the chest. In a swift response, Flynn draws his gun and shoots the snake, sending it and Sean tumbling down the chute and out of the plane. Although the snake was killed, Sean remarkably survives the ordeal unscathed, thanks to the protection of his bulletproof vest. Grateful for her help in saving his life, Flynn offers to take Claire out to dinner as a gesture of thanks. Claire accepts and instructs him to call her. In the meantime, a young flight attendant who took a liking to Sean writes her phone number on his palm, ensuring that both Flynn and Sean have their romantic interests covered in the near future. As they reflect on their recent harrowing experience, Sean reminds Flynn of the first time they met on the balcony of his apartment. It was a dangerous situation with Kim's henchmen trying to kill him, and Flynn had instructed Sean to follow his lead if he wanted to survive. Now, Sean tells Flynn that he needs to follow his lead again, but this time it's about surfing. The story ends with Sean giving Flynn his first surfing lesson.
Thanks for watching. Do the channel a favor by liking and subscribing for more videos like this. Thank you.